Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the virtual event series. I'm your host. I'm Angelo. I'm the Senior Interactive Media Specialist here at NETGEAR. I'll be your host for today. And then also if you've seen any of our other shows, I'll continue to be the host for the virtual event series. Just to introduce myself, I'm the Senior Interactive Media Specialist here. I manage the YouTube channel. I manage the Not Hyper Gaming Twitch channel. And if you've ever seen a few graphics come up on any of our social channels from NETGEAR and Not Hyper Gaming, there's probably a chance I had my hand on it. But just before we introduce exactly what we'll be talking about in today's event, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Derek, who's also a veteran. You have been on our show before. Welcome, Derek.
Thanks, Angelo. Yes, I have. It's my second one. Hello, everybody. My name is Derek Falberg. I'm a senior sales engineer with NETGEAR. And today, I have with me Randy Leung. Randy, if you want to say hi real quick.
Hey, hi, everyone. I'm the newbie here. First one.
Yeah. Okay, so this is his first event, my second, but that's okay. I can tell you that Randy and I are very excited to talk about NETGEAR's high-end, fully managed series of switches, specifically the M4300 series and the M4500 series. So we're talking about some pretty technical stuff today. Might be a little different from what you're used to. This is high-end switching. And we're going to talk about some features that I assume everybody knows. I don't know. But I have to assume that we need to start kind of from scratch and kind of work our way up as far as these different technologies, and then we'll talk about the various, the actual models for the M4300, the M4500. I'm going to focus on the M4300. Randy's going to focus on the M4500. Mm-hmm. So before we kick this off and start getting into models and things like that, and I've been around for quite a while, actually, guys. We're talking about going on 13 years. As of July, so I guess now I'm going on 14 years. But if any of you have ever done any kind of switching or messed with any kind of switches, you know, especially these high-end switches, there are a ton of features. I mean, literally, Randy, you can attest to this. The data sheet for the M4300 is literally, I think, 30, 40 pages long.
I think it's 40. And
it could be really... Is it 40? Okay, yeah. Listen, it's got a lot of great information. Our product line manager is, one of the best out there, and so he's so thorough that it's not only just about speeds and feeds, but it's also about, what are some examples of what these switches can do. So he actually has examples. But anyways, getting back to the point, out of all those features, I have noticed that when I talk to a customer, there are only a handful of features that most customers actually really want to utilize. So, for example, as a sales engineer, if I get a call or an email and somebody wants to purchase a...
Ooh, did we get you there?
I think we lost them.
Ooh. Hey, Derek. Hey, also, just to note, we are doing this live. Derek, even though we might have lost you for a quick sec, hopefully we're able to get you back. If you saw actually our last event, Derek, you're actually out like a bunch of miles away in the Central Valley. So again, everyone here who's in the chat, we appreciate you guys coming in here and being patient with us as even as we work through this. We are NETGEAR, but so sometimes you got to understand that internet broadband availability, despite having the best product, your results may vary depending on what your ISP is offering you. Derek, let's see if we could get you back in here. But if not,
is he back?
Let's test it. Let's see.
Hey guys, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Yep, I can hear you now.
We lost the...
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, my cell phone dropped. That never happens. Of course it happens when we're doing a live feed.
No worries.
Sorry.
You know what I'm going to do here, though?
Okay.
There you are.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just got to kind of switch this up a little bit. You're going to everyone here who's in the chat, you're going to see some live improv editing right here. We're going to cut Derek back in here, and we're doing this live on the air. All right.
Good job, Angelo. Okay.
Got you.
Hopefully that'll be the last of that.
No worries.
But anyways, so out of all the features that we offer, there's only a handful that really customers want. And as I was saying, of course, the port speed, number of ports. But Angelo, I don't know if you can share I have a slide deck. We're going to go through some slides. It's not going to be a PowerPoint of depth, slideshow of depth, but I think there's going to be a lot of interesting information that you may or may not know about. So, Angelo, can you go to slide 3 where it shows the PoE?
Yeah, sure thing. And sorry, I'm again doing a couple live improv edits right here.
Okay, let me know when you get there.
Let me just pull this one up really quick. Also, I did want to just shout out to everyone who's in the chat. I see Shady Joker here. Thank you for tuning in. You are one of our regulars from our Tech Support Live series. And also anyone who is a regular on the show, please drop any questions you have. This is an interactive show. We want to hear from you.
For sure.
And if you have, pretty much you have us here for an hour. So it's 12 o'clock Pacific time right now. We got about 50 minutes left. And so Derek, we're actually going to go through the slide. But also I did want to show off that demo video that we did shoot for the virtual event series, probably in a little bit. But let's go ahead and kind of introduce the product here. So did you mention slide 2 or slide 3?
Well, go ahead and go to slide 4.
4. All right. PoE?
And, okay, so you should see the 3 different types of PoE standards. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I want to make sure everybody understands the different levels of PoE. I think we all know about PoE. It's power over Ethernet, and that's pretty obvious. Now, originally, PoE was the 802. It's all based on open standards, IEEE open standards. And that is necessary so that our switch can power other types of manufacturers' devices. And the 3 primary types of devices that get powered by PoE are phones, cameras, and access points. So it's important that everybody abides by these open standards so that, somebody's a ShoreTel phone, as long as it's 802.3 AF compliant, and as long as NETGEAR switch is 802.3 AF compliant, the two can interact together and work together. But anyways, so the original standard was 802.3 AF that goes up to about 15 watts on any given port. And that was fine back in the day when we had, wireless G, wireless N, standalone cameras, just regular phones. But then, like everything else, technology advances, and there was a need for greater power. So the next standard that came out was the IEEE 802.3 AT, which specifies up to 30 watts. So now you're talking about AC access points, wireless access points. You're talking about maybe some low-end PTZ cameras and some higher-end video conferencing type of phones and things like that. Now, what I want to share with you guys is currently almost all of NETGEAR switches are PoE and PoE Plus. The latest and greatest standard that's coming out and is becoming more prevalent is the 802.3 BT. And there's 2 types. There's type 3 and type 4. Type 3 goes up to 60 watts and type 4 goes up to 100 watts. We have already launched several switches, smart switches specifically, 8-port, that are now PoE++ capable. And we will continue to launch a bunch of new switches, kind of keep your eyes out, ears out, for a lot more of these PoE++ type of switches. But that's what I kind of want to share with you guys, and make sure everybody understands the different types of PoE standards, what they mean, how much power they have, and where we're at as a company when it comes to these different standards. So moving forward, be looking for a lot more PoE++. By the way, it's only going to be type 3. I don't know, maybe sometime down the road we'll go to type 4, but type 3 pretty much covers a lot of things. In fact, Randy, just so you know, from what I see, as far as PoE++, I'm seeing lighting requires up to 60 watts. I'm seeing speakers, that's another one. We've got 802.11ax coming out that may or may not require more than 30 watts. So, Randy, I don't know. Maybe just take a second if you can think of any other devices that you're seeing out there for PoE++.
There's some X-ray devices. Maybe in the future with the whole, the pandemic and everything, might be more temperature sensors as well too.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and so we're going to see more and more of these type of devices, high-end, high-powered PTZ cameras. I'm seeing that, and so on and so forth. So anybody out there want to add their thoughts in chat, let us know, and we'll be happy to share that.
One extra one is
So go
actually
ahead.
they're starting to see access points as well now too, to go in BT as well.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. So
Awesome.
Angela, go ahead and go to slide 5.
Yep. All right. So this is on RPS/EPS mode?
Yep.
All right. Go for it.
Okay. So the reason why I bring up this slide is it's important for you guys to know that most of our switches are PoE+. A typical, this is very important, I hope this makes sense, a typical 24-port PoE+ switch generally out there in the switching world comes with about 190 watt PoE budget. Now, wait a second, it's a 24-port switch, PoE+ switch, and each port can go up to 30 watts. Well, we start doing the math, and hey, wait a minute, I've got 30 watts, and if I want 30 watts on all 24 ports simultaneously, I need 720 watts of PoE power, but I'm only getting 190. Well, that's typical. That's all I'm going to tell you is that, there's only so much PoE power that you can get out of an integrated power supply. But we do have options on some of our switches, some of our smart switches, and some of our low-end fully managed switches. We have what's called an RPS mode, where there's an RPS connector on the back of the switch, and you can actually inject more PoE power. So what you do is you get that RPS unit, which is that kind of the rack, that cage, and then you slide in power supplies, and each power supply can inject additional 720 watts of power. Now, on our high-end M4300 series of switches, which is the series we're going to focus on today, those actually have modular power supplies. So all you have to do is add a second power supply, slide it into the back of the switch. But for the smart switches and our older M4100 series, you've got to use an RPS. And this is very common.
Which
HP does
is,
this.
Hey Derek, so it'll be redundant power supply. Just to throw it out there. Everyone has no too many terminologies out there.
there's so many acronyms. So a typical 48-port switch got 390 watt power budget. Of course, if you want 30 watts on all 48 ports, you're going to need over 1,400 watts of power. So we can accomplish it, but generally you're not going to get full PoE on all ports simultaneously. Nobody does that really. So a little more information about that. It's important to know that. It's also important to know if you're going to purchase a PoE switch, one of the things that I have to do as a sales engineer is I have to understand how much watts does each device require and how many devices are going to be connected. It's pretty simple math. Now, a typical phone, just a standard IP phone, VoIP phone, it's usually around 5 or 6 watts. So 190 watts on 24 ports is actually maybe sufficient. But we do have, by the way, higher powered models. So we do on our 24 port smart switches, we've got the what we call the PP, ends with a PP, a double P. So you get 380 watts on 24 ports, and we have one on our 48 ports, 760 watts. So. Okay, Randy, awesome. Am I good? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, I think you got most of it. There's no acronyms this time. So.
Not as many acronyms. Yeah.
All right.
But awesome. No, thank you, Derek, for being able to kind of kick this off. We definitely want to kind of go into the foundational kind of technology as to what really makes the M4300 and M4500 really shine in these IT environments. So just to everyone also who has just joined the live stream. This is an interactive show, so again, if you want to drop in any of your questions about exactly what we're going to be talking about today, again, it's going to be a little bit more technical. We're going to really talk about the M4300, M4500, which is really like some of the most powerful hardware that we can offer here at NETGEAR. And depending on kind of your use cases, again, this is the virtual event series. This is something that we created just because hey, it's summer, one, and two, we're sheltering in place. So a lot of these trade shows that are scheduled out for the season, unfortunately, we're not able to be out there and be with you guys and do these live demos and answer your questions and get in touch, especially if you are an IT reseller, if you are, looking for a core switch for, any kind of situation where you needed to deploy one of these devices. We'd love to get in contact with you. So please drop a comment. Please let us know. What you guys think and what you want to see from us. But before we get too deep again into a lot of the kind of very deep kind of technical details of these products. We did shoot a video. This was about maybe a month or ish ago. We did it safely at the office. But if you guys are ready, we could go ahead and show that off for everyone here who has joined the event. You guys ready?
Do it.
Let's go do it.
Hi, welcome to our virtual event series. We are so glad you're able to join us. I'm Derek Falberg, Senior Systems Engineer at NETGEAR.
And I'm Randy Leung, the Technical Marketing Manager at NETGEAR.
We'd like to give you a brief introduction and possible use cases for the M4500 and M4300 in the IT environment. Today, we're showing our high-end M4300 series of switches. This series consists of 1 gig and 10 gig models that include a full Layer 3 iOS, modular redundant power supplies, and both command line interface and an intuitive web GUI interface for ease of management. The M4300 series also supports hardware stacking, and any switch in the M4300 series can stack together, allowing for our customers the ability to mix and match 1 gig and 10 gig models that support either PoE or non-PoE. Every switch in the M4300 series supports at least 2 10 gig copper and 2 10 gig fiber ports that can be used for stacking, allowing for flexible stacking options without the need for expensive stacking modules. The M4300 switches support IP routing and VLANs, allowing for segmentation of specific types of traffic, like voice and data on separate subnets. L3 DHCP relay allows users to create DHCP scopes as needed, for example, on a Windows Active Directory server. New to the M4300 series is the M4300-16X, which offers 16 flexible port speeds of 100 meg, 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and even 10 gig in PoE Plus as well. It's half width, so you can snap 2 of them together only using 1 U's worth of rack space. Now at the top of the M4300 series is the world's only 2U 12-bay modular switch, this M4300-96X. With 12 different slots to choose from, you can add PoE Plus and non-PoE Plus multi-speed ports as well. It's also the only M4300 model that offers 40 gig QSFP Plus fiber. Finally, all M4300 switches come with a full lifetime warranty, lifetime next business day advanced overnight replacement, and lifetime tech support and 90 days of pro support. So that's a little bit of information about the M4300 series. Randy, tell us about the M4500 series.
Sure, Derek. In addition to the M4300, we are showing our 100 gig M4500 series of switches. These switches consist of 2 flavors, the CSM4532 and the XSM4556. The CSM4532 is a 32-port 25 to 100 gig switch, and the XSM4556 is a 48-port 10 to 25 gig switch with 8 ports of 100 gig. Both switches are configured with command line only. The M4500 series of switches are ideal switches for core, top of rack, and spinal leaf topologies. With this high bandwidth capabilities, the M4500 switch series provides a customer with a future-proof design that will meet all the low latency and high bandwidth applications. Also, with the addition of multi-chassis link aggregation or MLAG, it can provide the customer with the perfect redundant switch infrastructure installations. So, when there's a failure on one switch, the backup switch will take up the slack and the end user will never notice an issue on their core applications or their internet connectivity. The M4500 switch series support most or all of the Layer 2 and Layer 3 protocols that are widely used in an IT SMB network. For example, software-defined networking, or SDN, management includes Open REST APIs and VXLAN gateways.
Just like the M4300 switch series, the M4500 switches come with the same great full lifetime warranty.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you for joining us today. For more information on the M4300 series and M4500 series of switches, please go to our website, NETGEAR.com, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're back. We hope you guys enjoyed that. We were all out there actually at the office for the first time in a while, so we had fun shooting that video. But thank you, Derek and Randy, for being able to tell everyone, hey, about the M4300, M4500, how it can exist in the IT ecosystem and exactly what it's capable of. But I think we're still gonna, kind of talk about some of these like foundational technologies here. And I think this one's on the M4300 and its stacking abilities, right?
Yeah. So
All
another just critical feature that customers require, other than PoE and the number of ports and the port speed, is going to be a feature called stacking. For those that are not familiar with stacking, I'm going to try to describe this. And I'll do that by using an example. So let's say I get a customer that is going to deploy, it's a VoIP reseller, and he's got his own customer that needs, let's say, 100 phones. And so these are going to be VoIP phones, which means that these phones are going to be powered by PoE. So, as we all know, switches generally come in 24 and 48 port flavors for the larger size switches. And in order to get enough PoE ports for a VoIP deployment with 100 phones, we're going to have to do, 2 48s, which gets us at 96. It's not enough, so we're going to add another 24. So in this case, I'm going to tell this customer that has gotten in touch with me and says, hey, Derek, I need 100 PoE ports, gigabit PoE ports, so I can install these VoIP phones. What I'm going to tell him is that, okay, great, I'll get you a couple of 48 and 24 port gigabit PoE plus switches, and they're going to be stackable. So a stackable switch is a specific switch. Not every switch can stack. You have to have a specific stackable switch that has dedicated stacking ports. And the idea is this, or maybe I should say the question is this, is how are you going to interconnect the three switches? And what a lot of people do and make the mistake is they interconnect them either using the front gigabit ports via a daisy chain, or, which is really bad, because you never want to do daisy chaining in the IT world, because of the lack of redundancy. But even a hub and spoke, where you have the two switches connecting back to the one, is still not a very good design. It's a poor design. And the reason being is because the throughput you're getting between the switches is only a gigabit. That's the first problem. The second problem is you have to manage each switch individually. Even worse is you're using up your precious ports, if I could say that word, on the front. So what's a better way to do this? And the answer is stacking. So Angelo, if you can go to slide 7.
Yeah.
And there's a visual there on slide 6, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. But with NETGEAR's stackable switches, what we do is we have dedicated stacking ports. And what you want to do is you want to have a stacking cable going from switch 1 to 2, and then from switch 2 to 3, and in this example, a stacking uplink going from 3 back up to 1, and that's what's called a stacking ring. And what this does, and why this is so powerful and so much better than a traditional way of interconnecting switches, is first and foremost, one switch will be the stack master, another switch will be the backup stack master, and then you can have a bunch of switches. In fact, with the M4300 series, you can go up to 8 switches in a given stack. And basically what it looks like is a virtual chassis. And the beauty is that all you need is one IP address to manage all the ports in the stack, as opposed to having, in this example, 3 separate IP addresses, logging in 3 separate times, and configuring 3 separate switches. Instead, I'm gonna log into the entire stack and configure the entire stack So the ease of management is clear. The other advantage is we use our 10 gig port. So any stackable switch in the NETGEAR lineup, switching lineup, is going to have a minimum of 2 10 gig copper or 2 10 gig fiber ports. And when you have it in the stacking ring, that's 10 gig times 2, full redundant, bidirectional, you're looking at 40 gigabit per second of throughput, as opposed to 1 gig. Guys, 40 gig versus 1, I mean, that's insane. And then finally, because it's a stacking ring, and you got a redundant stacking cable going from the bottom switch back up to the top, that eliminates this concept of daisy chain. So, Angelo, there's a little more information about stacking, and that's why I think it's such a powerful feature. And it is definitely a feature that is prevalent. In fact, all M4300 switches support stacking. And we do have some stackable smart switches, specifically the S3300 series. So, kind of cool.
Hey, Derek, so one of the questions on the chat, Justin wants to know how do you connect up a router to a ring stack without having a failure?
Well, here's what you got to do. And that actually gets to, hold on one second. Angelo, do me a favor, go to slide 10.
Okay.
All right. So it's a lot of stuff there on slide 10, but let me get to it. The answer is, first and foremost, your router has to be able to support, well, let me step back. First and foremost, you're going to have 2 cables, uplinks, going from the router to the stack. The proper way to do this is you have 1 cable going from the router to the stack master, which is usually the top switch, and you have a second uplink going to the backup stack master. And that way, if something happens, all the brains are housed in the stack master. But the backup stack master, they share the config together, and the backup stack master is ready to go to take over with 0 downtime. It's instantaneous. We call it nonstop forwarding, NSF. And that way, you have 0 downtime should something happen to the stack master. Now, the trick here is, and let me tell you one more thing. A router is one example. The most common examples of where customers like to have redundant uplinks going to a stack is going to be definitely a server. All servers have a minimum of 2 uplink ports, and it's always a good idea to have those 2 uplink ports going to 2 separate switches, as opposed to 2 uplink ports going to 1 switch. That way you have redundancy, and that's what stacking gives you. Another example is a storage device. Most all storage devices, and Randy, including our ReadyNAS, as you know, all come with, even the little 2-bay little suckers, come with 2 gigabit
2 ports,
uplink ports. Yep. But the caveat here, Justin, is that these devices that are uplinking to the stack have to support a feature called link aggregation. And here on the screen, you'll see examples. Well, you'll look over there in the top right. You'll see my servers connected to switch 1 with a lag, and then you've got another lag going between 2 switches, and then you got another lag going between the other 2 switches. So the caveat here is both sides have to support link aggregation. Do not try to use multiple uplink ports. In your example, a router, if the router doesn't support link aggregation. You know why? Because you're gonna have a loop, and a loop develops what's called a broadcast storm, and a broadcast storm will bring down your network faster than you can say, I don't know, lag.
Broadcast.
Whatever. Broadcast. So if you look at this slide, you never want to connect 2 switches together with 2 or more uplinks unless you create a lag. Because what a lag does is you're basically telling the switch, don't treat those 2 uplinks as 2 individual uplink ports. Treat it and combine them as a single uplink port that just happens to have 2 cables. Okay, Justin. So I hope that that's a great question, and that's the power of the lag, which is why again. So far we've talked about you're looking at the important features on a switch that I see that our customers are using. PoE is definitely one of them. Stacking, definitely one of them. Lag is critical when it comes to switching, especially more complex environments.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Justin, for putting your question in. And again, we are just about to hit the halfway mark. Actually, it's just hit it. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, again, we're going to be talking about the NETGEAR M4300 and the NETGEAR M4500, and all these different kind of deployments that we'll be able to do with these switches in the IT environment. I also did want to shout out Adolf. You were in the chat a little bit earlier. Derek and Randy, he's asking about the 5300 series, but again, I think we're gonna kind of really dig into these products that we have here, and again, your feedback is appreciated. I think we'll be able to kind of touch on some of these points a little bit later on.
Hey, Angelo, so why don't we go to slide 15? And while you're bringing up that slide, the M5300 series is EOL. It's been gone for a while, and the M4300 series has replaced it, just as an FYI. Okay, so if you're looking something similar to the M4300, if you're looking for something similar to the M5300, there's so many
there you go.
Look at the M4300 for 24 and 48 port gigabit stackable switches that are PoE or non-PoE. Okay. Okay. So where are we? We're on slide 15.
15.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I see unmanaged switches, smart switches. So this is our exact portfolio, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, for those that are familiar with your switching portfolio, we've got hundreds of switches. It can be, again, very daunting. But the good news is that you can really break it down into three distinct categories. And this is not unfamiliar out there in the switching world. In fact, HP, Cisco, Dell, whatever, Extreme, they all have a similar portfolio. You can break it down into entry-level unmanaged switches, which speaks for itself. There's no features. It's just port. Middle-of-the-road smart switches, and then high-end fully managed switches. So those are the three main categories. Smart switches are great. And we're not talking about those today, but that's probably our most popular category, because smart switches share very similar feature sets that the fully managed series of switches have. And what I mean by that is smart switch can do VLANs, so can a fully managed switch. Smart switch can stack and do PoE, do PoE plus. The difference is, and I want to make sure we're clear on this, is the fully managed series of switches, specifically the M4300 series, have more management capabilities. That's one of the main differences. The M4300 series has what's called a serial port, and you can do CLI, which is command line interface. But not only that, you can access the switch using Telnet and SSH as well as a web GUI interface. With the smart switch, you can only manage it using a web GUI interface. You don't have this concept of a serial port and all that. The other big difference is fully managed series has redundant modular power supplies, where the smart does not. And then in general, fully managed switches have not only the same features, but more of them and more granular. So yeah, smart switch supports VLANs, but the M4300 supports more of them. Yeah, smart switch supports quality of service, but the fully managed supports is far more granular what you can do with quality of service, or by the way, that means prioritization. So those are the main differences. Randy, did I miss anything? I think those are the key ones: the power redundancy, the management aspect. Oh well, the M4300 has got a far more robust chipset as well.
You got it. Pretty much got them all.
Okay. All right. For the sake of time, Angelo, can you go to slide 19? And I'm going to break down the M4300 series, and then Randy's going to talk briefly about the M4500 series. So assuming you guys see the slide with the M4300 series, a lot of stuff there. So let me just kind of break it down as easy as possible. The top 6 rows are all 10 gig switches in the M4300 lineup. The top 6 switches are generally a mix of either 10 gig copper or 10 gig fiber. The next two, you'll see the 28 PoE plus, 52 PoE plus. Those are 24. I'm sorry. The next two are actually 28G and 52G. That's 24 port and 48 port gigabit non-PoE. And then the two below that are 24, 48 port PoE, and you'll see that there's a yellow line underneath the 24 ports, and you'll see that there's a yellow line under the 48 ports. And the very bottom is our big bad boy M4396X, which I'll break down, or maybe Randy and I will break those two down for you. So just a couple more slides, and then I'll turn it over to Randy. Go ahead, Angelo, go to slide 20.
All right. Boom, the bad boy.
So, yeah, so this is the gigabit version of the M4300 series. And you'll notice at the top row, there's the M4300 28G and 52G. Pretty straightforward. It means it's a 24 port and 48 port switches, no PoE. So, you know, it's got redundant power supplies. That's pretty much it. But if you want the PoE version, you would look at the M4300 28G PoE Plus and 52G PoE Plus. But as far as the model number, you'll see that there's a 28 GSM 4328 PA and PB. Difference is that the PA is a lower power budget and a smaller power supply, specifically an APS 550, and the PB has a 1,000 watt power supply, so you get more PoE budget. Same concept with the 52 port, you got a PA and a PB, 550 watt, 1,000 watt. Go ahead and go to slide 21.
Sounds good. There. You got it.
Okay. So the top row shows these are all the 10 gig models, just so you know. We've got an 8x8, which is really cool. It's an 8 10 gig copper, 8 10 gig fiber. We've got a new, you'll see it's marked in green, 16 port 10 gig PoE Plus switch. We got a 12x12. We got a 24. Bottom line is we've got a bunch of 10 gig, options. And whether or not you want, a mix of copper and fiber, or you want dedicated copper, or you want dedicated fiber, it's up to you. And one more thing, Angela, go to slide 22.
Yeah.
I think this is really important.
Yep.
What's cool about the 8x8 and 12x12, and there's a couple other ones, they're half width. Now, why would we do a half width? And I thought it was brilliant what our product management did. Is you can actually, instead of having one switch, a small 10 gig switch taking up an entire 1 U's worth of rack space, why not cut it in half, because it doesn't have that many ports, and give our customers the ability to snap the two together and only take up 1 U's worth of rack space. And because they're stackable, if you look, you'll see that the kind of light green cabling is the stacking cable, so that's how you stack the two together. And then we've already talked about the ability to have an uplink going to the stack master and an uplink going to the backup stack master for redundancy purposes for things like servers and storage. Well, it's pretty cool that you can do that with two switches only taking up 1 U's worth of rack space. So go ahead, Angelo, go back up to slide 21. And Randy, if you want to take a moment and just briefly, or you know what, maybe go, hold on, go to, let's let Randy talk about, go to slide 24 if you would.
All right, no worries.
And then Randy, I'll turn it over to you just to break down the two M4500 bad boy switches that we just came out with that are really cool.
So for the M4500, which is the 48, it's the XSM 4556 or the M4500 48XF8C. 48XF is pretty much 48 ports of fiber, which are up to 10 gig, 25 gigs, and 10 and 25 gigs, and then pretty much, and it's defaulted to 10 gigs, and that's 48 ports worth of that, which is pretty cool. And then we have the other switch, which is the CSM 4532, which is a pure 100 gig switch. So all 32 ports are 100 gig or 50 gigs or 40 gigs. All use the QSFP form factor. This is great for course. I mean, if you were to get one of the pair of these, it'll pair well with the spine and leaf topology.
For sure. Yeah, in fact, the reason why we came out with these switches initially is for the Pro AV market. I won't get into the Pro AV today, but it's a big initiative for us to entered this market a while back, and we got to make sure we have the proper switches. And with Pro AV, it's all about endpoints, so receive and transmit type of products. And if you really want to scale, like, again, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but like a 320 by 320 type environment, you got to have a lot of bandwidth at the core in order to achieve that. And so that's why we came out with the 32C and the 48XF 8C. So, yeah. So this is our first stab at 100 gig, and I think it validates our other switching offerings too, because if you want to play with the big boys, you better have some big boy stuff, and we do now. And again, we go up against HP, Dell, and Cisco, and so this helps validate our offerings and helps us compete against some of the big players out there. So, and then finally, Angelo, if you want to go down to slide 26.
Okay.
This is these are all the various optics and redundant power supplies that work with the M4300, so on and so forth. So, so there you go, Angelo. So we talked about today the M4300, M4500. We got into some of the technical aspects. I hope that you all out there found interesting. I find it interesting. I love working with this stuff.
Yeah, we heard you guys did.
So I think we covered a lot of good stuff there. So hopefully some people learned some good things.
Yeah, and we did touch on Pro AV, but I also wanted to shout that out. We're actually going to be taking a deep dive into Pro AV specifically in next Tuesday's virtual event. So NETGEAR Virtual Events, this is a series that we do every Tuesday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. For next week, we're actually going to invite back John Henkel to talk about exactly, we really talked about the technical details of these switches, but next week we're going to talk about how specifically, I think especially with the M4500, when you're able to bring in all these, it has the capabilities to, output to all these endpoints essentially for Pro AV, the possibilities are honestly pretty crazy, and it's really, really, really interesting to see, hey, you got the bad boys here, or the big boys that, we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, but really how it fits into, something you might walk by, like, a huge audiovisual installation, something that goes behind, one of the visuals at, this huge concert venue, or, something that powers a stadium, right? So this is all really interesting stuff. And we're really going to take a deep dive into that next week.
Hey, Angelo, let me do one more thing here. Can you go to slide 23?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm setting this up as I'm teeing it up for you. How about that?
Yeah, tee it off for me, please.
I'm going to tee it up for you. Okay, so this is the 96X, a super cool switch, obviously very flexible. It's got 12 slots, 2 U's, and you can see the modules kind of there at the bottom of the slide. We offer 10 gig copper, 10 gig fiber, 10 gig copper with PoE, and then this is our one M4300 that supports 40 gig QSFP, but we actually have a pretty cool video that maybe you want to share.
Yeah, let's go do it. Derek, you were actually in this video, right? So we did this one, I think, a little bit earlier in the year. We're gonna see you. I didn't know they already invented teleportation, but you know what? We're gonna go ahead and roll it. And I think, especially for anyone who's in the chat or anyone who's watching this even after we're live, if you are an IT reseller, hopefully this is something that you will find interesting and valuable. But let's go ahead and roll it.
Hi, I'm Laurent. I'm the Senior Product Line Manager for Managed Switches at NETGEAR.
And I am Derek Falberg, Senior Sales Engineer for NETGEAR Switching. Laurent, what exactly do we have in front of us here?
That's a brand new 10 gigabit Ethernet switch. That's the M4396X, and that's very special because it's a modular switch. It comes empty and it can scale from 0 all the way up to the 96 port 10 gig port count or 24 port of 40 gig Ethernet. So with up to 96 port of 10 gig Ethernet or 24 port of 40 gig Ethernet, tell us, as a sales engineer, about the possible applications.
So Laurent, with this kind of flexibility and this kind of performance with a 1.92 terabit per second backplane, I see this as an excellent core switch. Not only that, but it also can be a redundant core switch with the ability to stack between the two core switches out to the edge.
That's a very good one, you're right, because with this NSF, non-stop forwarding procedure, such a stack just can't stop.
That's right. Laurent, the other application where I see this switch very much prevalent is going to be with storage and server installations. We're talking about 10 gig copper and 10 gig fiber connectivity from this switch to a storage device or a server. And you can also create link aggregation from each server and each storage to the switch and have redundancy from the switch to those devices.
I see, that's a good one, across a redundant top-of-rack installation. Because if there's something we know is that such a top-of-rack system should not stop, right?
I totally agree. So Laurent, the M4300 series supports a feature called stacking. Can you tell us a little more about what is stacking and how does stacking apply to our customers?
Oh, so stacking really is what sets the 4300 switches apart. Because we can use any 10 gigabit port with any media, copper, fiber, DAC cables, any 40 gig Ethernet ports with any media, DAC cables, splitters, transceivers, and convert them to the stacking mode. By doing that, we can form multiple stacking technologies. But do you know what makes that so special? This is the non-stop forwarding operation, NSF. That's key. It means that unlike other stacking topologies, this stack just can't stop. If the master switch got to fail, automatically the backup management unit will be up in far less than a second, and your stack will fail back and fail over again without any possible service interruption.
So now we have redundancy from the edge to the core, and we also have redundancy from each server and each storage device to the core. Now, Laurent, my understanding is the M4300 series supports a very cool feature called spine and leaf topology. Can you explain that to our audience?
Yes. Unlike complex data center, spine and leaf topologies, 4300 switches use stacking for a very easy edge-to-core stacking with high redundancy and super high performance.
That's very cool.
Thank you, Derek. So we just covered all possible applications for that switch. But tell me, as a sales engineer, what do you think are the most important benefits for our customers?
Laurent, as a sales engineer, I see three main benefits for our customers. And the first has to be the flexibility of the switch. Our customers can choose from a 10 gig copper card or a 10 gig fiber card, or for the first time, a QSFP plus 40 gig fiber card. Second has got to be the performance. This switch supports a 1.92 terabit per second backplane, which is enormous and very unique for a switch in this space. And then finally, it's all about price. Believe it or not, you can purchase this switch at $100 per 10 gig copper port. So what do you think, Laurent?
This is amazing. But you mentioned the flexibility for 10 gig copper, 10 gig fiber, even PoE or 40 gig Ethernet. But let me mention something more. You can actually start very small and don't get the 96 port count immediately, right? So stay very cost effective and grow later in non-blocking mode, which is absolutely unique.
Very cool. Laurent, I'm interested. How do I go about designing my own version of this 96X M4300?
That's great. You just need to get to that configurator page. You see the address below? This way you can easily design your solution, choose your 10 gig connectivity, your 40 gig connectivity, all your options, and you will be good to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us.
And thank you for your time.
So,
Ooh, I need to fix this one. But all right, we hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was a video that actually we shot just a little bit ago. Let me go ahead and fix you up, Derek, and you are set. Now everyone can see you. Perfect. So Randy, you actually sent me over to this guide a little bit earlier this morning. You mind going ahead and kind of running through it and what kind of information that everyone in the chat can find here?
So in this guide, it's in theory, it's pretty much the M4300, M4500, the use cases. So if you were to get one of these switches and you're not sure about it, you could read this guide and it'll kind of explain the typical use cases that you configure with this. It'll be good, it'll handbook that you can use to help you decide which switch is good and what use cases works for you.
Let me see if I could actually open it here. I want to make sure that I could pull it into Google Chrome. Let's see if so that one was actually the community article, but it actually leads to the PDF here. So I think a lot of the information is in here, correct?
Yes, all of it's in there actually.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, so this one is pretty fleshed out. I think there's about 22 pages in here, and then this is again, these are all use cases here. So if I go, we did speak about spine and leaf, and you can find more information here. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so everyone who found this show helpful, wants to learn more, I do encourage you to check out this link. Actually, what I could do here, let me see here. Can I get this sent off to myself? But either way here, what I'll do is how do I do this? Man, I want to throw this in the chat. I need to type out this entire link and throw it in the chat for you guys. Or what I could do here, let me see if I can do some movie magic. Give me a second here. Again, you guys are seeing this live, but you could really see kind of how these things will kind of work out here. But hopefully this one will work
Randy,
out.
that's a fantastic guide. So I'd really encourage anybody, if you want to learn more about networking in general, or if you're an aspiring network engineer, the information in that guide is really just outstanding. So it's got visuals. I just think it's very helpful if you're looking to move into more that direction in your career.
So I did some movie magic. I actually threw the link into the overlay. You guys are watching me kind of scale this thing a little bit down. I'm gonna update the YouTube description actually after this event with the community link. But yeah, thank you, Randy. I think this guide is gonna be really helpful for everyone here who's interested in the M4300 and the M4500. But we're down to our last 4 minutes. I did want to shout out. So Jay, I did see your question. What is better, Nighthawk X8 8-stream or the XXS? So today we're talking about the NETGEAR M43 and M4500. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get to your question, even though I'll just say it real quick. The AX8, go ahead and check that one out. That one is one of the big boys. I just answered your question. But Friday, Tech Support Live, we are taking all, pretty much any tech support questions you guys have, any pre-sales questions you guys have. You are confused about which router to upgrade your essentially your home office, or maybe you have a dead spot you want help fixing, or you're confused about, hey, should I buy a mesh extender or should I buy a mesh system? That is where you ask those questions. So every Friday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time, Tech Support Live, we are happy to take all your questions about really anything kind of home networking. Every Tuesday, we are doing the NETGEAR virtual events where we bring the trade show to you. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of, I want to thank Derek and Randy for being our guests here on the show. We had a lot of information out for you guys, and again, check out that community link down below. If you want to check out the guide, and if you don't want to type that entire thing out, I'm going to go ahead and update this YouTube description right after. But we're down to the last 2 minutes. Derek and Randy, if there's anything you guys want to close out with before we end the show.
Yeah, let me say one more thing. A lot of times I get questions about warranty. If you're not aware of it, all of the gear that we just talked about comes with a full lifetime warranty, lifetime next visit day, advanced overnight replacement, lifetime tech support via chat. I mean, okay, it's chat, but hey, it's free for the life of the product. If you need some basic assistance, configuration assistance. And then finally, this gear all comes with 3 months of pro support out of the box. So for the first 3 months, 90 days, You can call into our L3 support channel and get configuration support or whatever it is you need, okay? Other than that, I appreciate everybody stopping by.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you all for.
Awesome. So go ahead and send a like. If you send a like, you will help get these events to the front page of YouTube, and we'll be able to continue doing these events really for as long as you guys are here in the chat. But everyone who has been tuning in or has tuned in today, I want to thank you. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, guys.